Hey everyone, CTNtechnologynews here, and today I'm doing a rumor video on the Apple iPod Touch 6th generation. Now, a lot of people predicted that Apple's next media player, the iPod Touch 6th generation, would release in 2013, but that hasn't happened. Now people are speculating that Apple may launch the next iPod Touch alongside the iPhone 6, which is going to probably be a more significant upgrade for the iPhone and could possibly share some of the features with Apple's next generation music player. Now, some of the cool features that I'd like to see in the iPod Touch 6th generation are as follows. First, I would like to see maybe Touch ID in the iPod Touch 6th generation. Now, the idea of a fingerprint sensor for the next iPod Touch has split fans, and while it would help some users with the passwords and security, it isn't welcomed by many that see this specification as a novelty. Now, for the iPod Touch to succeed, I know it needs to separate itself from the iPhone enough, but I do think Touch ID could be kind of a cool feature in the iPod Touch. Now, the new iPads, the iPad Air and the iPad Mini with Retina display, have not gotten Touch ID, which is somewhat surprising, but I do expect that Apple will start bringing Touch ID to more of their devices come 2014. Now, two models of the iPod Touch would also be kind of interesting to see. With the iPhone 5S, Apple also launched the 5C, which is a cheaper version of the iPhone that's also plastic. If Apple did something like that with the iPod Touch, it would be able to appeal to more users who might look more for a cheaper version or for a more expensive model. Now, some people might like more of a camera-centered model as well. The iPod Touch 5th generation has a feature called iPod Touch Loop, which sort of turns it into more of a point-and-shoot camera that you can just carry with you on your wrist. And with that feature, it would be really nice to see if Apple really improved the iPod Touch camera. But let me know what you think about the iPod Touch camera in the comments below. Now, another thing Apple could do with the iPod Touch is make it waterproof. Now, this would be ideal in a number of situations where users want to take their iPod to the beach or to the swimming pool or somewhere where it could, get splashed with water. Maybe Apple wouldn't need to make it fully waterproof, but even water resistant would be nice. Now, some people, again, you probably won't think that the iPod Touch needs to be waterproof, and maybe you're right, but this is just another idea of something that Apple could do to separate it from the iPhone. Now, some more realistic things that could be in the iPod Touch 6th generation are more RAM. Now, the current iPod Touch has 512 megabytes of RAM under the hood, although iOS 7 does run smoothly on the amount of RAM. But with that said, it would be nice if Apple did decide to add more RAM to the upcoming iPod Touch 6th generation so that multitasking will be smoother and running multiple applications will be faster with no lags. I think even 1 gigabyte of RAM would be enough, but I mean, if Apple decided to go above and beyond and give it maybe 2 gigabytes of RAM like high-end smartphones, that would be even better. Now, something that would really be cool in the upcoming iPod Touch is a longer battery life. The new iPod Touch is powerful enough to run 3D games, record or watch high-definition movies, and stream videos, and these tasks can make the battery of an iPod run dry in hours. Having a lightning cable does speed up the charging process, but it would be nicer if we didn't have to plug the iPod in every night. A battery that could last 2 days would really be awesome. That would be kind of a deal breaker for me, and again, that would separate Apple's iPod Touch from the iPhone and from other media players. Now, something that's almost a given that we'll see in the next iPod Touch when it releases is a faster processor. The current iPod Touch hosts a dual-core processor clocked to 800 MHz of clock speed. Nowadays, applications and games are being developed so fast, and the demand for all the processing and computing for these apps and games are getting higher and higher. A quad-core would be a dream to put on an iPod Touch, but if Apple can't make that dream into reality, making the clock speed of the dual-core processor to be higher would be nice enough for the next iPod upgrade. Now, the iPod Touch is really nice if you don't want to buy an iPhone but still want access to all the App Store, and that's basically what Apple's always marketed the iPod Touch as. Some people are saying that the iPhone 5C will hail basically the end of the iPod Touch because people are buying just cheaper smartphones instead of media players, and that might be true, but I think that there is still a market for the iPod Touch, so I would personally really like to see an iPod Touch 6th generation with some of the features I've said. But let me know what you'd like to see in the next iPod Touch in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this rumor video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!